All right, everybody, I think we're going to get started. I've put everybody on mute for right now just so we can get a better recording, and I'll open it up for questions in a little bit. I'd like to welcome everybody to Keystroke Live. Today we're going to be talking about something that we in the office have been doing a lot of since it's the first of the year and people are doing their inventory counts and that sort of thing. One of the biggest things we see is people's counts don't come out right because they have sales orders or layaways sitting out there that are no longer valid, but they're showing in the allocated or layaway fields. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how to clean all that up before you do a physical count so you get good counts. Kind of as a reminder, Keystroke Live every Wednesday. It's dealer-oriented technical training, hot topics from the industry. We have presentations from other guests and partners. It's the same time, same place. The first Wednesday of every month is our president, Michael Gebb. So he's always got some interesting things to say. So tune in every week and learn a little bit something new. So let's talk about transaction maintenance, primarily prior to doing a variance or a physical count, but this can be done anytime. The first thing you want to do is delete transactions that are no longer valid. I've seen databases that have sales orders that are 10 years old. I kind of doubt that that's still a valid sales order. Could also have old layaways or on holds or purchase orders. All of these transactions plus other transaction types can update the quantity on hand, or it'll change the quantity on hand as well as change the allocated, layaway, or on order amount. So there's other transactions that can do this as well. So you could run a sales transactions report to kind of see what transactions you might have that can affect those quantities. And you might want to take a look at them. So let me show you the report in Sales Manager that you can run to see what transaction types you might want to look at to clean up. So if I go over here to the tables menu and I do a sales transaction type report. Okay. If you take a look at this, the stars over here are enabled transaction types. And this updates column shows you what fields, when you put an item on this transaction type, what fields it affects. You know, invoices just affects the quantity on hand, but layaways affect quantity on hand and the layaway amount. Sales orders affect quantity on hand and allocated, along with on hold and rental and other transaction types. So you want to take a look at transaction types that are going to update allocated or layaway amounts, because those are what can mess with your quantities if you're trying to get a good and accurate physical count. So you can kind of run that report, and then you can run some other reports to help you make decisions on transactions that you may want to delete. You can run a sales transactions report for on holds or layaways, or sales orders as well. You can do a sales back orders report or a purchases open orders report. Now, purchases, having outstanding purchase orders that are old or invalid will not mess up your physical count, but it will mess with auto ordering if Keystroke thinks you have something on order when actually you don't. those items may not get auto-ordered. So this is a way to clean that up as well. You're also going to have to consider possibly how to deal with payments. You know, if you're looking at transactions 10 years old, it's probably not a big deal. But if you're looking at a layaway that's 6 months old and you know the person moved out of town or whatever, there may be payments on there that you might have to deal with, whether it's refunding them or however you want to do it, maybe just delete it. So the reason you're running these reports is to determine a date prior to which you're going to delete any old transactions prior to a certain date. So, you know, the first of the year, this year, okay, maybe any sales order that's in 2014 or older, you can, you know, en masse delete those. And Keystroke has a great utility to help you with these. Once you've made your decisions, there's a utility called Deltrans. And there's a doc in the Keystroke doc folder. I'm not going to go through every possibilities and go step by step through this doc, but we'll explain how this works. You want to be very cautious when you're running standalone utilities in Keystroke. You always want to make sure that everyone is out of Keystroke. And remember, these are utilities run usually from a command prompt. So even the computer you're on should be out of Keystroke when you're running this utility, and always have a current backup. You know, obviously with a name like Deltrans, it stands for delete transaction. You can mess up a lot of things if you put the incorrect syntax. So always have a backup of this. Deltrans allows you to delete sales or purchase transactions of a specific type. When you run it for a particular transaction type. So you may have to run it a couple of times, once for layaways, once for sales orders, once for on holds. And you give it a date time range. You know, your start date could be probably before you started using Keystroke. And as I mentioned, for sales orders, maybe go through 12/31/14. You know anything that's that old is no longer valid. I mean, it could even be 6 months ago. That's kind of up to you. That's why you're going to run reports to help you determine what's going to be best. Filtering is possible on this, but it's kind of limited. But there is a filter called filters.doc that will show you what kind of filters you can run for sales transactions or purchase transactions. So you can say only for certain customers or certain vendors if you'd like. I'm not going to get into the details of going through the Deltrans.doc. This is just going to kind of give you a good overview of what kind of maintenance to do before you do a full physical count, so you can get some, so you can have good validity with your counts. And as I said, this is run for each transaction type. So you might have to run it once for sales orders, once for layaways, once for purchase orders. Once everything is cleaned up, now deleting transactions will adjust your quantity on hand and allocated in layaway. It'll take, if your open back order index is in good shape. But it may not be as well. So we have another function that's going to correct the quantities allocated, layaway, on order, based on existing good transactions. So this is why you delete all the old ones that are no longer valid, that somehow got forgotten. Delete all of those. And then we're going to run the delete utility, or del util, to update your open back order index. This is for back orders for sales and open orders for purchases. And also, and that's what gives you the list in sales or purchases of back orders or purchase or open orders. And then it's also going to update the inventory record to have the correct quantity allocated, layaway, and on order. So both of these functions are very powerful. And we've been doing a lot of these, as I mentioned, just because we have, people are doing physical counts and they're realizing, hey, why do I have 100 allocated here? I don't find anything where this is allocated. So this will clean everything up. So I want to open this up for some questions. It's, we've kind of covered a lot of information here, but we've been doing a lot of this lately, so we're very familiar with what people are having to do before they do any counts. Does anybody have any questions?
No.
Goodness. Well, let's do a quick review, and then I will let you go. What we're looking at here are using some utilities that Keystroke has, along with some reports, to help you make decisions to delete transactions that are no longer valid. Sales orders, layaways, on holds, purchases, all kinds of transactions you may have. You can run reports to help you make decisions, and then run our del trans function to delete transactions en masse. And then you can run our delete utility function to correct your open back order index and correct the quantities allocated to layaway and on order. So might take a little bit of your time, but it's really going to make the variance that you do after this go much easier and be much more accurate. So thanks everybody for being here. Even though the email that went out yesterday says Mike Tabor is going to be here next week, you get me again, and we're going to be talking about variance with multiple transaction types, or how to deal with allocated and layaway quantities when you do your variance. So everybody have a great week, and thanks for coming. Bye-bye.